Every story comes to an end, no matter how grand, no matter how cherished. The halls of Downton Abbey have carried the weight of countless secrets, the whispers of forbidden love, and the footsteps of generations. Now the final chapter begins. The lights grow dim, the music softens, and the grand estate prepares for its last curtain call. This is not just an ending. It is the farewell to a world built on tradition, sacrifice, and dreams. The camera drifts slowly across the wide expanse of the countryside. Rolling hills stretch into the horizon, painted gold by the first light of dawn. The silhouette of Downton Abbey rises against the sky, its towers and chimneys standing tall like sentinels of history. The building itself seems alive, breathing with memories and anticipation. As the soft notes of a familiar piano melody play in the background, the viewer feels a sense of both nostalgia and unease. A voice, calm yet powerful, begins to speak. Every beginning has its moment of triumph, but every story must face its end. The Crawley family has lived through wars, scandals, and heartbreaks, yet their bond has never truly broken. But times are changing, and the walls of Downton are no longer untouched by the outside world. The camera lingers on a grand staircase bathed in the glow of morning light. Servants move quietly in the shadows, preparing the house for another day. The clinking of silverware, the rustle of linens, the distant echo of carriage wheels, all the sounds that once signaled order now carry a weight of finality. Viewers do not see faces, only gestures. A maid smoothing a tablecloth with trembling hands, a butler closing the door with deliberate care, a letter being sealed with wax. The voice continues. The Abbey has always stood as a symbol of grace, of power, of family. Yet symbols cannot withstand the tide of change forever. The question remains, what will endure and what must be left behind? The camera shifts outside once more, capturing storm clouds gathering in the distance. The wind sweeps through the trees, rattling leaves like whispers of doubt. The tone grows heavier as the narrator speaks again. As the final chapter begins, the choices made within these walls will decide not only the fate of a family, but the future of a legacy. The music swells, rising from gentle strings into a haunting orchestral harmony. The Abbey is shown once more in a long, sweeping shot, its windows glowing faintly as if hiding secrets waiting to be revealed. The screen fades to black, leaving the words lingering in the audience's mind. The grand finale begins. The camera opens with a close shot of a dusty corridor, lit only by the soft flicker of candlelight. The Abbey feels older here, its walls lined with portraits of ancestors staring down from the shadows. The lens does not linger on faces, but instead on the brush strokes, the delicate frames, the hands folded in painted stillness. The sound of a clock chimes in the distance, its slow toll echoing through the silence, a reminder of how much time has passed. The music shifts into a slow, sorrowful string arrangement, carrying traces of the Abbey's original theme, but played with a heavier, more haunting weight. A narrator's voice cuts through the stillness, through laughter and sorrow, through triumph and despair. These halls have witnessed it all. The Crawleys have walked these corridors with pride, but pride cannot stop the march of time. The scene transitions to the dining room, but not in its lively glory. Instead, we see the table empty, the chairs neatly aligned, as if waiting for ghosts of conversations long past. Silverware glimmers faintly in the low light. In the background, faint echoes of laughter drift in like distant memories. Disembodied, faceless, carried on the air like fragments of another age. A servant's hand brushes across the polished table, leaving a streak of reflection behind, a sign of devotion to a place that may not last. The narrator continues. Generations have lived here, each leaving behind moments too precious to be forgotten. Love that defied tradition, friendships born across the lines of class, losses that left the house in mourning. Every memory lingers, clinging to stone and wood, refusing to fade. But memory alone cannot hold back the world. The camera pulls back to a grand window overlooking the gardens, where once grand celebrations filled the lawns with music and color. Now the grounds are empty, the flowers fading with the season. Rain begins to fall softly, tapping against the glass like a steady drumbeat of change. The soft melody turns more restless, as if hinting at something on the horizon. A quick montage follows, hands clasped tightly before parting. A letter slipped under a door, a candle snuffed out with a sudden breath. Each image is faceless but filled with feeling, each shot carrying the weight of history repeating itself. The narrator's voice deepens. The Abbey was built on traditions that held strong against the tide. But now, as the tide rises higher than ever before, even tradition begins to crumble. The section closes with a single shot of the Abbey from a distance, rain falling hard against its stone walls. Lightning cracks in the sky, illuminating the silhouette of the house for just a moment. The music swells into silence, and the words hang in the air. Yesterday lingers, but tomorrow cannot be stopped. The screen opens not with peace, but with movement. A carriage wheel cuts through mud, splashing rain onto the ground. The Abbey looms in the distance, half shrouded in mist, its windows glowing faintly like watchful eyes. The music shifts from sorrowful strings into a low, steady pulse, each beat like the striking of a war drum. Something is stirring inside these walls, something that will not be easily contained. The narrator's voice returns, heavier than before. Every home carries secrets, but not all secrets remain silent. Within Downton, loyalty is tested, trust is shaken, and the bond between past and future is stretched to breaking. Tradition collides with change, and neither side is willing to yield. The camera moves to the servants' hall, where hurried footsteps echo across stone floors. A hand slams a drawer shut. A maid carries a sealed envelope, her grip tight, her breath uneven. Upstairs, a butler locks a cabinet with deliberate force, turning the key twice. None of their faces are seen, only the urgency in their movements. Every gesture speaks of hidden truths, of words unsaid, of fears rising quietly in the background. The narrator presses on. A letter delivered could change the course of inheritance. A whispered word in the wrong ear could unravel years of loyalty. The Abbey has always been a stage for battles of pride and power, but this conflict may be the one that ends it all. The camera shifts to the Great Hall, where the doors slam shut against a rising wind. Curtains flutter violently as storm clouds gather outside. The music builds into a tense harmony, strings layered with a deep piano that feels like thunder rolling beneath every note. Quick cuts reveal signs of discord. A maid tearing a note in half, a candle flickering out in a draft, the gates of the estate closing with a heavy clang. The voice grows sharper. Not all within these walls fight for the same cause. Some cling to the safety of the past, while others chase the promises of the future. But when pride clashes with ambition, there can be no peace. A brief flash of imagery bursts across the screen in rapid succession. A hand clenched into a fist at a desk, a servant running through the rain, a dinner bell ringing louder than usual, echoing like a call to arms. The Abbey is no longer only a home. It is a battlefield where every decision carries the weight of legacy. The sequence ends with a single image, a storm breaking in the sky above the Abbey, lightning splitting the clouds as rain pours over the estate. The narrator leaves the audience with one thought, cold and certain. The storm has come, and it will not pass without sacrifice. The Abbey stands in the distance, its outline softened by mist. But this time the camera does not approach with awe. It circles slowly, like a predator closing in on prey. The once steady walls seem smaller, fragile against the weight of storm clouds pressing down from above. The music swells into an uneasy rhythm, strings trembling, as if the house itself knows its fate hangs by a thread. The narrator's voice cuts through, measured but heavy with warning. A family tested, a home at risk, a future uncertain. For generations, Downton has endured, but even stone cannot hold against the pressure of time. Choices must be made, and every choice comes with a price. Inside, the camera glides past empty chairs in the great dining hall, each polished surface reflecting flickers of candlelight. But no warmth lingers here. The air feels cold, the silence stretched too thin. A silver goblet tips slightly, left unsteady on the table, as though it waits for someone who may never return. The walls hold their breath. The servants' quarters stir with restless movement. A maid carefully folds away linens, her hands trembling. A butler pauses at a window, watching the rain trail down the glass. None of their faces are revealed, only their unease. They know something is changing, though no one dares speak of it aloud. The Abbey has always been their shelter, their world. But now that world quivers under the weight of uncertainty. The narrator continues, his words sinking deeper. What will be kept and what will be lost? Will loyalty stand strong, or will ambition tear the Abbey apart from within? The family faces a truth they cannot escape. To cling to tradition is to risk the future, and to embrace change is to risk everything they have ever known. The montage sharpens into fragments of tension, the gates of the Abbey clanging shut with iron weight, a ledger snapped closed with finality, a hand tightening around a quill as if signing a document that seals destiny, a candle blown out in an instant, plunging a room into shadow. Each image arrives like a warning bell, each moment marking the cost of what is to come. The music grows louder, a dark harmony echoing like waves crashing against stone. Outside, storm winds howl through the gardens, bending trees and scattering petals across the ground. The Abbey's lights flicker in the distance, a beacon fighting against the night. But even beacons falter when storms refuse to pass. The narrator's voice lowers, almost a whisper now. The price of tomorrow is never paid in coins alone. It is paid in trust, in love, in sacrifice. And within these walls, the debt grows heavier by the hour. The section closes with a slow pull away from the Abbey, shrinking smaller and smaller against the raging sky. A single question lingers in the silence. What will remain when the storm outside begins to fade? Not with peace, but with a quiet pause, as if the world itself takes a breath. The Abbey stands cloaked in silence, its walls glowing faintly in the dim light of twilight. The music softens into a single piano melody, each note falling like a tear, delicate yet unshakable. For a moment, the tension of conflict gives way to something deeper, the pulse of memory, the fragile strength of love. The narrator's voice returns, softer now, carrying the weight of reflection rather than warning. For all the grandeur of stone and ceremony, it is not walls that keep Downton alive. It is love whispered in the corridors, loyalty woven into the smallest acts, and bonds that endure long after words fade. The camera moves gently through a series of intimate images, a hand brushing across the spine of a well-worn book, pausing at a letter tucked inside. A locket clasped tightly, never opened but never let go. A glass of champagne raised in quiet solitude, as though toasting not the present, but the memory of someone lost. These are not grand gestures, but fragile threads holding lives together. The servants' hall glows with the faint warmth of lamplight. A maid lays out carefully folded garments, her hands lingering longer than necessary, as if reluctant to let go. A cook pauses by the hearth, stirring a pot slowly, though no one waits to be served. A footman straightens a picture frame that leans ever so slightly, an act of care in a world beginning to unravel. Their tasks may seem ordinary, but in them lies devotion, the quiet proof of hearts that refuse to abandon what they love. The narrator deepens. A legacy is not carried by walls alone. It is carried by those who choose to stay, by those who give their strength even when hope falters. Love lights the darkest halls, and even in the face of farewell, it burns brighter than fear. The music swells into a gentle string harmony, echoing with a trace of the Abbey's theme, but lighter now, more tender. The camera shows a window with rain drying slowly on the glass as dawn threatens to break. Outside, the garden lies battered but still standing, its flowers bent but unbroken, a quiet symbol of resilience. The section closes with one final image, two hands clasping in silence, neither letting go, framed only by the flicker of candlelight. The narrator whispers a final line before silence takes over, one last chance to hold on before the world demands goodbye. The stillness shatters. The screen erupts with sudden sound, the crash of a chandelier shattering against marble, its pieces scattering like sparks. The music ignites into a furious rhythm, strings and drums pounding in unison, driving the momentum forward like a racing heartbeat. No longer patient, no longer soft. This is the moment where every secret bursts into the open and every decision demands to be made. The narrator's voice strikes harder now, commanding. When the weight of the past collides with the hunger for tomorrow, there is no silence left to hide in. Downton has endured war, scandal, and heartbreak. But the greatest battle will not be fought with weapons. It will be fought with choices. The images tumble fast, relentless. Doors fling open, revealing shadowed corridors. A footman shouts in the rain, his voice drowned by thunder. A train pulls into the station, steam rising into the night like a signal of departure or arrival. A hand tightens around a wedding veil, crumpling lace in fear or determination. None of the figures show their faces, yet every gesture screams with urgency. The rhythm accelerates. Horses gallop across muddy fields, hooves striking the ground like war drums. Sheets of parchment scatter through the air, caught in a draft, words disappearing into the storm. A single candle burns brighter before it is snuffed out by an unseen breath. Each shot lasts only a moment, yet every moment carries the sharp edge of finality. The narrator's voice rises above the storm of music. Love, duty, ambition, pride. All threads pulled taut, all colliding in a storm too fierce to escape. For one family, for one home, every bond will be tested, and not all will survive. The camera now turns to firelight, a ballroom filled not with dancers, but with chaos. A curtain tears free, whipping across the polished floor. A servant races to bolt the doors shut against something unseen outside. The chandeliers swing wildly overhead, shadows leaping like specters across the walls. The music reaches its peak, a towering crescendo that drowns out breath itself. Images flash quicker than thought, tears falling onto an opened letter, the abbey's gates slamming shut, a glass of wine shattering on the floor, two hands tearing apart in sudden parting. And then, silence. The storm halts on the brink of destruction. The abbey stands in darkness, its silhouette glowing faintly against a horizon lit by lightning. The narrator delivers the line like a verdict. Downton Abbey will not be the same again. The storm begins to fade, its thunder now a distant murmur, its rain reduced to a whisper against the stones. Slowly the clouds part, and the first rays of dawn stretch across the horizon. The abbey rises from the mist, bathed in pale gold light. Its walls, worn yet unbroken, gleam with a final dignity, as if bowing gracefully before history closes its pages. The music softens to a tender orchestral swell, the familiar theme of Downton Abbey returning one last time, not triumphant, but bittersweet. The narrator speaks with calm certainty, the voice of farewell. For every beginning, there must be an end, and for every end, there remains the memory of all that was loved, all that was lost, and all that was cherished. The Abbey has stood as more than stone, more than wealth, more than tradition. It has been a home, a sanctuary, a witness to lives that changed the world within its walls. The screen reveals the grounds once filled with carriages and celebrations. Now they are empty, dew glistening on the grass, flowers bending gently in the morning breeze. The Abbey's great doors stand closed, but not in defeat, in quiet rest, as though guarding its stories for eternity. Inside, the silence carries weight but also peace. A candle flickers its last flame, then fades, leaving only the glow of sunlight breaking through stained glass. The images slow into long, lingering moments. A letter sealed and left upon a desk. A locket placed carefully into a drawer. Two hands resting together, no longer trembling but steady, bound by love that does not need words. Every frame feels like a memory, carved into the heart of time. The narrator continues, a family's journey, a legacy preserved, a home remembered forever. For those who walked these halls, and for those who carry their stories beyond them, Downton Abbey will never truly end. The music builds to a soft crescendo, strings and piano entwining into one final harmony. The camera pulls back to reveal the Abbey one last time, framed by the rising sun, its towers shining like guardians of memory. The image lingers, then slowly fades to black. On-screen text appears, glowing softly against the darkness. Downton Abbey, the grand finale. Only in theaters, 2025, the final note hangs in the air, delicate and haunting, before dissolving into silence. The trailer ends, leaving the audience with the echo of farewell and the weight of a story that will live forever in their hearts. On finally breaks.